The rules we broke. I wasn't supposed to look at her like that. Elena Voss was my brother's fiancée, 26, sharp as glass, with a mouth that looked like it had been designed for sin, and a body that made every clean thought I had curl up and die. She moved through the family estate like she already owned it, silk dresses that clung to her hips, soft laughter that always seemed a fraction too intimate when I was in the room. And me? I was the black sheep, the one who came home only when the old man threatened to cut me off, the one who was supposed to keep his hands to himself. I first noticed the way she watched me on a rainy Thursday in late October. We were alone in the library after dinner. My brother had gone to take a call. The fire was low. She was sitting on the edge of the desk, legs crossed, one heel dangling. I was pouring whiskey I didn't need. "You're staring," she said, voice quiet. "You're engaged to my brother." "I know." She didn't look away. Doesn't stop the staring. I should have left. Instead, I walked closer until I could smell the faint vanilla on her skin and see the pulse jumping in her throat. She didn't move, didn't flinch, just tipped her chin up like she was daring me. "You like dangerous things, Elena?" "I like honest ones." That was the first night I kissed her. Not soft, not romantic. I grabbed the back of her neck and took her mouth like I'd been starving for it, and she opened for me with a little sound that went straight to my cock. Her hands fisted in my shirt, my tongue slid against hers. I could taste the wine she'd been drinking and something darker underneath, want. Real, filthy want. We didn't fuck that night. We came close. I had her pinned against the shelves, skirt pushed up around her hips, two fingers already slick inside her while she bit my shoulder to stay quiet. She was dripping, clenching, whispering my name like a secret she wasn't supposed to keep. I almost came just from the way she looked at me, pupils blown, lips swollen, eyes saying, "Don't stop." But the front door opened downstairs, my brother's voice. We froze. I pulled my fingers free, slow, and she watched me bring them to my mouth, tasted her. Didn't smile, just said, "Tomorrow, the guest house, after midnight." I went. The guest house sat at the edge of the property, far enough that the main house lights looked like distant stars. She was already there when I arrived, still in the same silk dress, barefoot on the cold floor. No lights, only the storm outside and the sound of rain against the windows. She didn't speak, just reached for my belt. I fucked her on the couch first, hard, one hand over her mouth so the sound she made wouldn't carry. She was tight, wet, and so responsive it made me mean. Every time I bottomed out, she arched like she wanted more. I gave it to her, pulled out only long enough to flip her onto her knees and take her from behind, watching the way her ass bounced, the way her fingers dug into the cushions. When she came, she shook so hard I had to hold her hips still. I followed a minute later, buried deep, teeth against the back of her neck. We didn't stop after that. Every night for 3 weeks we found each other. The guest house, the back of my car on the service road. Once, recklessly in the wine cellar while a dinner party went on above us. She would text one word, "now," and I would invent an excuse. She would leave the door unlocked. I would lock it behind me and take her against whatever surface was closest, sometimes slow, sometimes brutal, always quiet, always hungry. The suspense wasn't whether we'd get caught. It was how long we could keep pretending we wouldn't. My brother started noticing the way she flinched when I walked into a room, the way her eyes tracked me even when she was speaking to him. One night, he asked, almost casually, if I'd been spending time with Elena. I looked him dead in the eye and lied. That same night, she rode me in the shower of the guest house, water running over both of us, her forehead pressed to mine. "He's going to figure it out," she whispered. "I know." "What happens then?" I didn't answer. I just thrust up harder and watched her eyes roll back. 2 days later, the engagement party arrived. The whole estate filled with people. Champagne, music. My brother smiling like a man who still believed the world belonged to him. Elena wore a black dress that made every man in the room look twice. I stayed on the edges, whiskey in hand, watching her. She found me near midnight on the terrace. No one else was there. The music was loud enough inside that our voices wouldn't carry. "I can't keep doing this," she said, but her hand was already on my chest, sliding lower. Then stop. She didn't. She pushed me back against the stone wall and sank to her knees, right there, under the open sky. She took me into her mouth like she'd been thinking about it all night, slow at first, then deeper, eyes locked on mine while she worked me with her tongue and throat. I tangled my fingers in her hair and let her. When I came, she swallowed every drop and stood up like nothing had happened, wiping the corner of her mouth with one elegant finger. "Your brother is looking for me," she said. Then she walked back inside. I lasted another 10 minutes before I followed, found her in a side hallway, dragged her into the nearest empty room, some unused study, and bent her over the desk, skirt up, panties shoved aside. I was still half hard from her mouth, and the second I pushed inside, she bit down on her own arm to stay silent. I fucked her like I was trying to leave a mark, like I wanted my brother to somehow feel it through the walls. She came twice before I finished, legs shaking, forehead pressed to the wood. We almost made it out clean. Almost. My brother opened the door. He didn't speak at first, just stood there, hand still on the knob, staring at the two of us. His fiancée bent over a desk, my cock still buried inside her, her dress hiked to her waist. The silence was the loudest thing I'd ever heard. Elena moved first. She straightened, pulled her skirt down with steady hands, and looked at him without apology. I stepped back, fixed my clothes, and met his eyes. He closed the door behind him. What happened next wasn't clean. There were raised voices, accusations, a punch I didn't fully dodge. Elena standing between us like she was the only adult in the room. My brother calling her every name he could think of. Me saying almost nothing because there was nothing left to say that wouldn't sound like an excuse. By morning, the engagement was over. By afternoon, Elena was gone from the estate. By evening, my brother had stopped speaking to me entirely. I found her 3 days later in a hotel downtown. She opened the door in one of my old shirts and nothing else. No greeting. Just pulled me inside and kissed me like the world had already ended, and we were the only ones left. We didn't talk about what came next. Not that night, not the ones after. We just kept taking each other, harder, quieter, hungrier, like the only way to survive the fallout was to drown in it. Sometimes, late at night, she still asked the same question she asked in the shower. What happens now? I never have a good answer. I just roll her under me, push her thighs apart, and show her the only truth I've got left. We already chose, and neither of us is sorry.